So, good morning and good evening. Welcome to this new session that we are starting a book study on psychic education based on the writings of Sri Aurobindo and the mother. And Monica, you'll have to help me how to pronounce the name of the writer. N Huppes?
Huppes, yes.
Huppes. Okay. Thank you. So, N Huppes. Yeah. So although it is mentioned that, this workbook is for teachers and people working with children, but especially the first part, it is mentioned that is for everybody, anybody who would want to know the psychic. So, Monica, would you like to start with the introduction? I don't know how to go about that. Would you, what all to read? I just highlighted a few things. Yeah.
Yeah, we can go through, all of us, we can read and go through. Or
So,
either you can, you can read and we can just
So
go
you can
through it.
read the whole thing you're suggesting,
It
right?
would be nice
Starting.
to go through. Yeah, why
Yeah.
not? Yes.
Okay, so
है ना?
anybody who is willing, we can start from the preface. And I've just realized, I didn't realize this before. The PDF that we have is edition 1, which was printed in 2001. And if anybody has the workbook, especially if we have purchased it recently, that's the second edition that was printed in 2015. So there are slight variations, but mostly everything is the same. Just wanted to share that. Yeah, so if anybody is willing, they can unmute and we can read and we can just stop wherever one feels okay stopping. It's very simple.
I'll start. So often the question has been asked, I want to live a true spiritual life, but how do I combine this with my work? Indeed, it is not easy to stay focused on one aim while living an active life in society with all its demands, entertainment, and distractions. It seems almost as if the society does everything to make us forget our deeper aims in life. How can one help oneself not to forget? This book could provide some answers and exercises to those who would like to pursue their spiritual quest more actively in every area of their lives. The content of this book is based on the writings of Sri Aurobindo and the mother. Sri Aurobindo wrote thousands of letters to those who asked for his advice. In one of his letters, he writes that one of the aims of his yoga is to live in the finer consciousness more and more while acting from it on the external life. To live in the inner consciousness more and more while acting from it on the external life. This implies that the deepest layers of our existence have to come to the foreground and guide every aspect of our daily life. The mother, for several years, answered questions orally in her question and answer sessions. These letters and playground sessions are available to us in book form and make an incredibly rich resource of thousands of pages. Besides this, Sri Aurobindo in his earlier years and the mother from the 40s onwards have given advice that relates specifically to education and emphasize the integral and psychic aspects of it. If all this is available, why then still bring out a book like this? This book came about in answer to a need often expressed in Mirambika, an integral education school with a teacher's training in New Delhi. Over the last 20 years, Mirambika's Teacher Education Center has been training teachers in integral education. During these years, certain questions have been asked over and over again. What is the psychic being? What does integral education really mean? How to put it into practice? Of course, the answers to these questions can be found in the works of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, but teachers of integral schools and trainee teachers during their courses have expressed frequently the wish that this information should be made available in a more easily and accessible form. In the original writings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, there is a richness that can never be obtained in a simpler workbook like this. I am fully aware of the fact that any compilation lifts their words out of context and takes away some of their original depth and meaning. This has been the main reason for me to hesitate so long to bring out this book. But if this book can serve as a stepping stone to these original writings, its purpose would be fulfilled. The first part of the book has been written to help all those who want to take the first steps in integrating spirituality in everyday life. It may also have something for those who are already on the path. Part 2 of the book deals more specifically with education, integral education, as envisaged by Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, is centered around the soul. In the ideal situation, it is the psychic being of the teacher who creates a psychic learning environment for the students. Of course, finding one psychic being is dependent on grace, and one cannot demand an immediate result the moment one begins intensifying this search. It may take years, it may take more than one lifetime to find the soul. But it is also true that one cannot implement integral education if one has not at least started the search for the soul in itself, in oneself. To be able to help students to discover their innermost self, teachers have to provide an environment in the classroom conducive to psychic growth. For this, it is important to have a conscious experience of what it is like to be on this quest. Living the search ourselves gives us the strength and the wisdom needed for implementing integral education. It helps us to provide an atmosphere where students and colleagues feel invited to look within themselves and explore the deeper meaning of life. The school part of this workbook, the second part of this workbook is primarily meant for those who want to prepare themselves in an active manner to facilitate integral education in the classroom. But it may be of interest also to parents and to those who guide others in their workplace. It mentions some of the signposts and landmarks of the inner journey as given by Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. It offers guidelines that have been helpful by the trainees of the Mirambika teachers training and by people who attended Mirambika's workshops. The exercises in this book are based on exercises the mother gave during her questions and answer sessions in the playground in Sri Aurobindo's ashram in Pondicherry. Many of these provide a wonderful support once we are on the way. The introspective questions, worksheets, and checklists have been prepared over the last 20 years in Mirambika. These worksheets and checklists are meant to help you in clarifying and strengthening your effort. Since the educational world has not yet recognized the significance and potential of integral education, One of the challenges of an integral teacher is to stay focused on its true aim and not let the work be diluted too much by forces that oppose change. Many teachers have found the exercises and introspections in this book helpful to remain focused. Hopefully, these exercises will also work for you. But above all, may you be guided more and more by their presence. Many wonderful people, young and old, have, have helped to make this book possible. Without their commitment and support, this book would not have been obtained its final form. I owe so much to you all and feel a deep gratitude radiating to each one of you from the depth of my being. Neeliche Huppes, February 2001.
Yeah, thank you, Ritu. So this was the preface that we just read, and now we come to how to use the book. So there's this quote that I didn't pull the page high enough. It says, "Before thee we bow down and implore that we may never forget, even for a moment, all we owe to thee, the mother." So I think it's all right if now we go to how to use the book. I don't think there's anything to elaborate on what we just read. If there's anything, any question, comment, and if you can unmute and share. Otherwise, if somebody is ready, we can read how to use this.
Yeah, I can do. How to use this book. This book was written with teachers and trainee teachers in mind. However, the first 10 chapters forming part 1, self preparation, can be used by anyone who would like to intensify the search for the psychic being. Part 2, the integral classroom, is specifically for teachers. It gives practical information for creating a psychic environment in integral schools. We mean by integral centered around the soul, as distinct from holistic education, where the soul is just one of the areas of concentration. The actual finding of one's soul happens by an act of grace. What we can do is to prepare ourselves for this marvelous moment so that we are ready to receive it. The mother gave many exercises which were meant to help us to turn inward, become aware, prepare, and purify the being, and so make it ready. This book is a workbook. Besides giving information and the mother's exercises, it intends to help you to assimilate the information through introspections, worksheets, checklists, and so on. The checklists and tips are especially meant to help you to stay focused on your aim in the midst of daily life. Each human being is unique, so the worksheets can be taken as guidelines to which you may like to give a personal touch. They aim at providing you with an experience on which you can build yourself. They are meant to create self awareness so that you can find out what works best for you. A book is a medium that presents a linear approach whereas human growth is miraculously complicated. So you may want to change here and there the sequence, skip certain portions, dwell on some chapters for a long time, or turn back to them later. The chapters and exercises in this book have been arranged in such a way that they will take you deeper and deeper into yourself. During this inner journey, you may want to stay with some of the chapters for a long time till you feel ready to carry on. In case you are already a seeker and have found a way inward that satisfies you, you could still use the first part of this book to increase the strength of your own path. Part 2, the integral classroom, is set up for individual teachers working with students, but it would be helpful to have side by side a weekly or fortnightly get together with a group of teachers or the whole staff and principal of your school. This teamwork would create a stronger base for a successful implementation of psychic education in your classroom and in your school. As yet, integral education is implemented in isolated pockets, so an essential part of the work is to remain concentrated on the aim and strengthen the team. The innovations envisaged in Part 2 will reach a greater depth and bring about a more integral environment for the psychic to blossom if they are carried out with active participation of all involved: management, principal, teachers, office staff, parents, and students. In this way, a school may radiate its presence beyond the borders of its campus. We hope that the content of this book facilitates a process that, once started, will continue and gain in depth over the years. May this book be a close companion to you on your journey.
Thank you, Jagan. So now, as it said, the first part, the part 1, is self-preparation. And yes, so should we proceed forward, or there's anything we would want to share or yeah.
Yeah, so this book is also used actually in schools.
Yeah, it's basically they use it like in Mirambika. So I was referred to it by Jayanti Didi, only the principal of Mirambika, who said that, for anybody who is dealing with children or who wants to connect with their psychic being, one of the much recommended workbooks is psychic education. So I'm assuming that all the DDs have read it, but I don't know what they have. But yeah, they highly recommend. Like in their prime book list, this is like one of the, in the top 5 list that they gave, that they told me. Yeah.
So Mirambika is about integral education. Even Mothers International is about integral education.
Yeah. Monica, would you want to answer that? You would know that more than I do.
नो आई थिंक जो मदर्स इंटरनेशनल का जो प्री प्राइमरी वाला पार्ट है नाउ दे हैव अडेप्टेड टू इंटीग्रल एजुकेशन philosophy, but earlier it was not like that. And in general, Mothers International School is a basic curriculum based school, so it follows a curriculum like CBSE, ICSE जैसे है ना, other schools too. But Mirambika is a free progress school, so it doesn't follow any curriculum. So there are
Mm-hmm.
differences, and it's a mainstream school basically,
Mm-hmm.
Mothers International, जो भी मेरे को अभी तक पता है. And the other thing is that the only I feel the great difference is that they have a very strong spiritual atmosphere because of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So they kind of role plays, and they read poems of Mother Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo has written so many poems, so they take up for reading. In students, they take up for reading. Role plays में बहुत सारे plays जैसे Mother और Sri Aurobindo ने लिखे हैं, they take up those themes. I think so that gives a lot of solid spiritual backing. But otherwise, it's not a integral education school. It is a mainstream school. But in the pre-primary years, now they have adapted the integral education coming from Mirambika.
Mm-hmm.
Learning from Mirambika, they have taken it up for the early years.
So we'll start with part one, self-preparation. So we can, anybody who's willing to read, wanting to read, we can start with this quote from the mother.
Should I?
Yes, please.
There is an ascending evolution in nature which grows from the stone to the plant, from the plant to the animal, from the animal to man. Because man is, for the moment, the last rung at the summit of the ascending evolution, he considers himself as the final stage in this ascension and believes there can be nothing on earth superior to him. In that, he is mistaken. Sri Aurobindo came upon earth to teach this truth to men. He told them that man is only a transitional being living in a mental consciousness, but with the possibility of acquiring a new consciousness, the truth consciousness, and capable of living a life perfectly harmonious, good and beautiful, happy and fully conscious. The Mother.
Yeah, would you like to continue reading, Deepa?
Sure. Yeah, I will. Introduction. In one of her classes at the ashram playground, the mother said, essentially, there is but one single true reason for living. It is to know oneself. We are here to learn what we are, why we are here, and what we have to do. And if we don't know that, our life is altogether empty for ourselves and for others. The mother. These powerful words of the mother say it all. But what does she really mean when she says that the reason for living is to know oneself? Does it mean that one knows oneself when one has found out that one has a beautiful voice and likes to sing, or that one dislikes mathematics? These things are knowledge about our surface nature, but the true knowledge about ourselves is an inner knowledge of our true eternal self. What the mother means is that if we really want to know ourselves and learn why we are here, we have to come in conscious contact with our soul. Why? The soul is a spark of the divine himself. It is our inmost self. Only the soul in us knows the truth and can help us to take decisions that are based on truth. Our outer being, which is made up of our mind, our emotions, and personality, and our body, is meant to give expression not only to the qualities of the soul, but also to the decisions made by the soul.
Yeah, should we pause here and just see if there's anything we would want to elaborate on? So, firstly, this quote, again, I think it's very important basically to know that how we think this is the end. And yet, if we have read Sri Aurobindo and the mother, we know that Sri Aurobindo has, spoken about homo divinus and how the consciousness from the mental consciousness has to be the truth consciousness. So I don't know if it makes a difference to us, but I think just to know it just helps, right? Because we just feel we are so, this is it, this is the end, or sometimes we might even feel frustrated that what kind of a world is this? What kind of a life are we living? So just in that I have more possibilities, I have more potential. There is somewhere where I have to reach personally, as well as obviously, we all make a society. So this is not the end, this is not the highest possibility. And there's so much more that would be coming. And like it said, in another quote, that how we can, at the least we can do, or maybe the most we can do, is to be ready to receive, right? When something is being given. So to prepare ourselves for that receiving when it's meant to come. So I don't know how much, Monica, would you know where, I understand, should we take this up? Like, it's very simple though, at least right now, right? So I
I
don't know.
think we can continue reading like we were reading, and if people have questions or comments, then we take. Otherwise, we just kind of go, because it is actually quite straightforward and to the point. So if we have questions or comments, we stop to take them, like you stopped right now.
Okay.
And if not, let's continue. अगर सब कुछ समझ में आ रहा है तो.
Okay. So with that, if there's anything, of course, you can unmute at any time and we can take up anything that needs clarification together. Otherwise, we can continue and reading about the outer being now. So if anybody is willing, they can read this. Otherwise, I will. Yeah, okay.
The outer being should not be the decision taker because it cannot see the truth. That is so because of the process of evolution. In the evolution, God first created out of himself matter. But in matter, his consciousness is hidden so completely that it appears to be without consciousness. It is called inconscient. Rocks belong to this most inconscient layer of creation. Since it was God's wish to reveal himself more, plants evolved. This process went on, and he unveiled himself even more in the form of animals. And then man, the thinking animal, was created. Though man is the highest form of evolution till now, his body, vital and mental, have still a lot of the original ignorance of matter in them. That is why these parts of ourselves cannot take the best decisions. It is only when we learn to listen to our divine center, our psychic, that we can take decisions in harmony with our highest aim. When we are in contact with our psychic center, we experience the world in a different way. Everything becomes more beautiful. We stop making judgments. We see the deep harmony that exists in spite of outer appearances, and we spread loving goodwill and harmony ourselves. We realize that it is important to make our body, vital, and mind strong and pure, supple and open, so that they can express the psychic element in us as perfectly as possible without distortions. But one does not find the soul just like that. Usually, a long preparation is necessary. To prepare ourselves for the discovery of the psychic being is a beautiful journey, but it does need effort and determination on our part. We have to make a repeated effort to start living with him, and to create inside ourselves an environment where the psychic can come to the front. We need determination because our mind, our vital, and our body have formed habits and preferences that they will not give up easily. God does not impose himself, but is ever present and ever ready to help us. Similarly, the psychic, our divine center, does not impose itself. It has to be invited constantly. We, we invite it by sincerely wanting to know its truth, by becoming quiet and pure enough to hear its silent voice, and by choosing to follow it. Besides the fact that
We can
only
take a
the
pause.
soul. Okay.
Yeah, we should take a pause. Yeah, it's a very rich content that you just read. So let's take a pause. So I think with Mother and Sri Aurobindo also and other masters like say Meher Baba in his book God Speaks, he shares about this process of evolution, that how when the divine plunged into the inconscient, first thing that God created was, say for example, rock. Now when we look at a rock, it does not appear to be conscious at all. It appears like it is just totally dumb. But in India we pray to even a rock, because somewhere we have recognized that spiritual truth, that there is consciousness in a rock also, you know but it is not visible, it is not apparent. And then the process of evolution, which nature is trying, gave rise to, say, things like animals and plants. In animals and plants we can see that they can, if we touch them, as if they have consciousness, there is something in them which is responding. So in them consciousness is a little kind of out in front, much better than a rock. रॉक को अगर आप टच करते हो तो उसको ऐसा लगता है कुछ फील हुआ नहीं फील हुआ हमें नहीं पता. बट जब हम प्लांट और एनिमल को टच करते हैं, वी नो दैट दे हैव कॉन्शियसनेस टू वॉट एवर डिग्री, and then as we grow higher, then we have higher animals like elephants or say dolphins or chimpanzees or monkeys, apes, neanderthals. So ऐसे क्या हो रहा है, that evolution, through the process of evolution, nature is trying its best that वो जो consciousness अंदर छुपी हुई है वो बाहर निकले. It is nature's process of evolution. But what is so precious about human birth is that here in human birth we can begin to collaborate in the process of letting the consciousness coming out in front. अभी तक तो नेचर ट्राई कर रही है और वो बुरी तरह से ट्राई कर रही है, और वो मतलब एज श्री अरविंदो एंड मदर, आई एम श्योर ऑल ऑफ अस, मोस्ट ऑफ अस मे हैव रेड, कि वो ऐसे ट्राई करती है कि वो खुल के ट्राई करती है कि खूब सारा सामान यूज करके जैसे एक एनिमल बना दिया, से आर्कियोप्टेरिक्स. अब नाउ आर्कियोप्टेरिक्स एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता क्योंकि नेचर को लगा कि यार बनाया तो सही मैंने खूब सारा सामान लगा के, बट हाउ डज इट मैटर, नाउ इट डजंट seem to be of use. So what it does is that it puts all its energies into the process of evolution, but whatever link or whatever phases or stages of evolution are not necessary anymore, it completely extincts, like it कुछ एक सुनामी आया, गायब हो गई पूरी की पूरी species. And this has happened to many species on earth. So Sri Aurobindo and Mother say that if we do not collaborate, then this is going to happen to human race also. क्योंकि अगर नेचर को पता लगेगा यार ये ह्यूमन मैंने बना तो दिया बट ये किसी काम का नहीं है, अब इसका भट्टा गोल हो गया, it has become stagnant. So what it will do is actually it will erase the whole human race and maybe it creates something more. But with Mother and Sri Aurobindo we see the possibility that human beings, if they begin to work upon themselves, what the work that we are reading right now, finding our psychic and being led by it, then we can lead ourselves to homo divinus, that was shared in the beginning, so that the human race does not have to be completely eliminated, parallelly human beings will be also existing, and parallelly we will have Superman also existing. This has, again, I'm just rephrasing it, I'm not sharing it out of my knowledge. So ये नेचर का जो काम है, जो एक वेनली नेचर, एक काइंड ऑफ इट्स वांटिंग टू गिव बर्थ टू दैट होमो डिविनस जो अभी तक नहीं आ रहा है, देयर वी हैव द प्रेशियसनेस ऑफ ह्यूमन बर्थ, दैट लेट अस कोलैबोरेट. अदरवाइज तुम पैदा ही क्यों हुई हो, क्यों? तभी मास्टर्स ने कहा है दैट व्हाई आर यू वेस्टिंग योर प्रेशियस ह्यूमन लाइफ, बिकॉज वी आर डूइंग थिंग्स जिसके लिए हम पैदा नहीं हुए. हम एक परिवार बना के प्रोटेक्टेड रहने के लिए, अपने प्यारे 4 लोगों के साथ ये करने के लिए हम पैदा नहीं हुए. वी हैव अ मिशन इन लाइफ, सो लेट अस find that mission out and let us serve that mission out so that we can collaborate. So all this, and I think there was one anecdote shared. Somebody asked the mother that, mother, I saw a dream where you and Sri Aurobindo and me, we were like pebbles on a shore. Is that true? And mother said, yes, it is true. So we all have been pebbles at one point of time, and now the consciousness has evolved and now we are human beings. So we can be grateful for this evolution and we can do our best here. And that is why they say that not to kick even a stone, to treat even a stone with lots of respect, because that also is a growing kind of, soul or a consciousness. Yeah, so that I just wanted to share that on the first half. If there is anything, please.
Yeah, so Monica, one thing. So you Sri Aurobindo talks about the capability and the capacity of us to be transcending to Homo divinus. So since you've touched upon different philosophies and different religions and all, so is there a concept of Homo divinus in Vedantic philosophy as well?
See, Vedantic philosophy, I would not be able to comment upon, है ना. और लेकिन देखो, आप बुद्धिज्म को भी देखो जैसे, है ना, तो उसमें क्या कहा गया है? उसमें कहा गया है कि ट्राई टू बी द बेस्ट इन द मीन टाइम वाइल यू आर नॉट एनलाइटेंड. यही बोला गया है ना कि इन द मीन टाइम, जब तक आप बुद्धा नेचर नहीं आपका फ्रंट में आ जाता है, इन द मीन टाइम, सिंस एनलाइटनमेंट टेक्स अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम, they say that try to be the best that you can be, try to have a good heart. And I feel that this finding our psychic, or even having the aspiration to find the psychic and to step away from desires and to step away from all the ill will that is there, that is exactly in resonance with what, say, for Buddhism, for example, is sharing, and many other philosophies also. But I would not be the right person to comment on what Vedanta says. Yeah.
So human divinus is something like an enlightened being.
It's a being who is totally in sync with the divinity within itself. We are not in sync, ना, है ना. तभी देखो, जैसे अब मेरी जो बॉडी है ना, इट कैन हाइड माय डीपर थॉट्स. मेरे दिमाग में आपके लिए जजमेंट हो सकती है, बट मैं आपको पोर्ट्रे क्या करूंगी, एज इफ कि देखो मैं कितनी सुंदर तरीके से आपसे बात कर रही हूँ, अंदर क्या छुपा हुआ है? जजमेंट. ठीक है. सो दिस स्किन दैट आई हैव, दिस फसाड दैट आई हैव, it hides, it has the possibility of hiding. Mother shares that the skin or the material of the Superman will be so transparent, जैसे हमने वो अवतार मूवी में देखा है ना, something like that, कि जिसमें आपका इनर एंड आउटर इज वन. अभी हम छुपा सकते हैं, और अच्छा है कि छुपाते हैं, क्योंकि हमारी जितनी अगलीनेस है, अगर वो बिल्कुल सामने आ जाएगी तो बर्दाश्त नहीं होगी हमसे, है ना. तो एक तरह, और जैसे डेथ है, अभी डेथ एग्जिस्ट करती है ना, तो अच्छा है कि डेथ एग्जिस्ट करती है, क्योंकि अगर मैं इतनी बुरी तरह से जीवन जीऊंगी, है ना, और मान लो ऐसा इंसान अमर हो जाए जो इतना गंदा जीवन जी रहा है, वो इंसान अगर अमर हो जाए तो वो त्राही त्राही मच जाएगी पूरी संसार में. तो उससे बेटर है कि वो खत्म हो जाए, एक समय आए कि वो खत्म हो जाए. सो डेथ हैज अ प्लेस इन अ लाइफ ऑफ इग्नोरेंस, बट डेथ विल नॉट हैव अ प्लेस इन अ लाइफ ऑफ डिविनिटी. So slowly as we progress, and that is why we see many of, say, senior seekers, with mother and Sri Aurobindo, they extended their life. तो उनकी एज जैसे 90s तक पहुंच गए और तब भी बड़े एक्टिव रहे, है ना. दिस इज एक्चुअली अ वेरी गुड मार्क ऑफ देयर कनेक्शन विद द ट्रू डिविनिटी. क्योंकि उन्होंने क्या दिखाया, उन्होंने बोला कि अगर आप अच्छे तरीके से जीवन जीते हो, है ना, फॉर डिवाइन वर्क एंड सेल्फलेस, देन यू कैन एक्सटेंड, यू कैन एज इफ यू आर रेजिस्टिंग डेथ. तो वो जो 70 साल में हो सकता था, वो अब क्या हो रहा है, 90 साल में हो रहा है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अभी भी पूरी तरह से जीता नहीं है आपने डेथ को, बट द रेजिस्टेंस हैज स्टार्टेड, स्ट्रगल हैज स्टार्टेड अगेंस्ट डेथ. दैट itself, according to Mother Sri Aurobindo, is a signal that something good is happening. है ना, that at 93 of age you are very active and you are still offering yourself to the world in some or other way, है ना.
So human divineness is like a psychic state, mental state, or it's like a physical state where the body is gonna be transparent and all.
Both mental, vital and physical.
So that's gonna be a collective movement, or individually people can reach that stage.
हाँ, तो इस पे इंडिविजुअल मूवमेंट भी होगा. मैं वही आपको कह रही थी ना कि बताया गया है, श्री अरविंदो मदर हैव सेड दैट ऐसा होगा. जैसे देखो ना, अभी हम हैं, हमारे साथ साथ मंकीज भी तो एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, चिंपांजीज भी एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, बट ये है कि निएंडरथल नहीं है अब, है ना. तो पैरेलल एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ आवर एंसेस्टर्स. नाउ मंकीज एंड चिंपांजीज supposed to be our ancestors, right? But they still have a purpose, so they are still parallelly existing. So it is said that human beings will be parallelly existing along with the supramental race. It is said, again I am just sharing whatever is shared by Mother and Sri Aurobindo.
Right.
हाँ, लेकिन पता है क्या होता है, ये हमारी क्यूरियोसिटी तो है, ये हमको थोड़ा आगे की तरफ धकेलती है, और एक तरह से अच्छा है ना, कि और जानने का मन करता है. इट्स अ गुड काइंड ऑफ क्यूरियोसिटी, बट द बेस्ट इज टू रीड देयर डायरेक्ट वर्ड्स. मदर एंड श्री अरविंदो, वही स्टार्टिंग में प्रीफेस में भी हमने यही पढ़ा, दैट बुक में सर्व एज अ स्टेपिंग स्टोन सो दैट यू बिकम सो क्यूरियस दैट नाउ यू वांट टू लिव लाइफ डिवाइन एंड रीड लाइफ डिवाइन, है ना. तो लाइफ डिवाइन में, सिंथेसिस ऑफ योगा में, ये सारी चीजें पूरी डिटेल में है, जो हम में से कोई भी पूरी तरह से एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर सकता. वी डोंट हैव दैट कैपेसिटी. So let this curiosity, be so alive in you that you stumble upon or maybe find time to read Life Divine and Synthesis of Yoga your own self. And then all the questions are answered through them directly.
Can I ask one more question? So, if we are talking about Homo Divinus, can we say that Buddha, Aurobindo, all the eminent personalities that we look up to did touch on Homo Divinus?
ये मंकी कैसे जवाब देगा? And I think it's all our common sense, and we can apply our common sense, and we are not in a stage to judge or comment, right? But we know that there was something happening over there, है ना. So we can understand that कुछ वहाँ पे ऐसा हुआ है जो अभी तक हमारी रीच के थोड़ा अभी भी दूर है ना. और उसके लिए बहुत डिसिप्लिन चाहिए, बहुत एफर्ट चाहिए, और हम सबको पता है, अंदर से हम सबको पता है कि कुछ उन्होंने ऐसा किया है जो हम कर सकते हैं, बट अभी हमसे बहुत दूर है ना. कुछ तो ऐसा हुआ है वहां पे, बट क्या हुआ है, होमो डिविनस हुआ है, होमो हैबिलिस हुआ है, हमें नहीं पता, बट कुछ हुआ है वहां पे.
I also have a question. If we go to the page that I was reading, the first line that I had read about the decision should not be made from yeah, the outer being should not be the decision taker because it cannot see the truth. तो हमें कैसे पता चलेगा कि हमारा कैसे हो रहा है डिसीजन, कहाँ से आ रहा है डिसीजन?
आई थिंक ये हम इस बुक में पढ़ने वाले हैं. है ना. और यूजुअली जैसे मदर और श्री अरविंदो को हमने जो भी थोड़ा बहुत है ना पढ़ा है, उसमें मदर कहती है कि जहाँ पे भी एजिटेशन होती है, जहाँ पे भी रेस्टलेसनेस होती है, और उस रेस्टलेसनेस से जब हम एक्शन लेते हैं, दैट इज कमिंग आउट ऑफ द आउटर बीइंग. So mother has always suggested to step back from that surface agitation and Mother says that this we will read actually in this book, that there is a test कि आपकी वो डिजायर से आ रहा है एक्शन या जो भी चीज आने वाली है, या फिर वो एस्पिरेशन से आ रहा है. तो मदर कहती है कि डिजायर में क्या होता है, डिजायर में ऑलवेज देयर इज ए वेरी इंटेंस वाइब्रेशन, लाइक अ ठा 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 ठा. अगर ये नहीं हुआ तो पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा, लाइक यू आर आफ्टर इट, है ना. एक रेस्टलेसनेस है, यू आर आफ्टर इट, पैशनेटली आफ्टर इट. लेकिन एस्पिरेशन में क्या है, एस्पिरेशन में एक बहुत ही ज्यादा ठहराव है. आपने वो लोग देखे होंगे जिनमें बहुत ठहराव होता है ना, कि उनको किसी भी बात की एजिटेशन नहीं है, उन्होंने अपना सजेशन दे दिया, है ना. मे बी इट मे बी द मोस्ट राइट मोस्ट सजेशन दैट दे हैव गिवन, बट देर इज नो agitation and restlessness in them that should be followed. So that is coming out of, again, one little signal is that whenever there is restlessness and agitation that we are acting from, कि हम रुक नहीं पा रहे, कि यार इतना ज्यादा तड़प हो रही है कि रुक नहीं पा रहे, बस ये करना ही है ना, then it is coming from the outer being. We can be sure about it. There is a certainty about it. And then when the being has more perseverance and more rest and calm certitude, that I know that this is not happening right now, and whenever it is the right time for that thing to happen, it will happen if it has to happen. So उसके ऊपर हमारी contentment dependent नहीं है ना. outer being में क्या है, because the outer being has a lot of lack, it is dependent on the outer circumstances as if कि मेरा पूरा fullness ही वहीं से आने वाली है. तो उसके पीछे हम हाथ धो के पड़ जाते हैं कि वहीं से फुलनेस मिलेगी. बट द इनर बीइंग हैज कंटेंटमेंट, तो उसमें वो रेस्टलेसनेस नहीं है, वो एजिटेशन नहीं है. एंड दिस वी आर एक्चुअली गोइंग टू टेक अप इन दिस बुक. देयर आर मेनी प्रैक्टिसेस एंड टूल्स व्हिच टेल अस दैट हाउ टू स्टेप बैक फ्रॉम डिजायर इफ वी रियली वांट टू not take decisions from the outer being. So this will be revealed slowly in stages to us more clearly.
Thanks.
I've been the lines that I've read and others have read, this particular paragraph kind of resonates. This is from our many selves. It says that Sri Aurobindo gives this distinction uh, between the ordinary consciousness and this individual consciousness, and he says that the ordinary mind knows itself only as an ego with all the movements of the nature in a jumble, and identifying itself with these moments, thinks, I'm doing this, feeling that, thinking, in joy or in sorrow, etc. The first beginning of real self knowledge is when you feel yourself separate from the nature in you and its movements. So this and there's one more. It says in the outer surface, nature, mind, psychic, vital, physical are all jumbled together, and it needs a strong power of introspection, self-analysis. So reading through this, it kind of gives an idea, basically, as to um, that 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 there is something that I like. He says that normally one is not aware of this psychic or this purusha within. So when one becomes aware, and I think looking forward to this practices, I think when that awareness comes, then the differentiation can be eventually made. Yeah.
Yeah, while we were sharing, I was reminded of this thing that we had really liked and we had put on our website also when we were talking about how and what. So if I'll just read it. So it's from the mother. She says that perhaps it would be enough if some individuals become pure gold For this would be enough to change the course of events. This courage, this heroism, which the divine wants of us, why not use it to fight against one's own difficulties, one's own imperfections, one's own obscurities? The mother. So we can now start the next page, starting from we invite. So whoever is willing, then please unmute and read.
Ma'am, are you sharing that
You have
page?
to
Because we
change
can
the
still
screen
see
Maybe,
share.
the.
it changed for me. I'll just reshare it. Apology. मुझे दिख रहा है, मुझे लगा सबको दिख रहा है. Yeah, so we invite. Yes. We can see it now, right? Yeah, thank God. Okay.
I'll read. Sorry, it starts from besides the fact, right?
Yeah, you can start from we invite. Yeah.
Okay, sure. We invite it by sincerely wanting to know its truth, by becoming quiet and pure enough to hear its silent voice, and by choosing to follow it. Besides the fact that only the soul in us can know the truth and guide us, there is one more good reason to start our inner journey. We are on earth to progress, says the mother. This is the reason for taking birth after birth, because our psychic can only make progress here on earth when it takes on a human body. Today, the importance of making progress has a new dimension thanks to the marvelous work done by the mother and Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo has said that in the next step of the evolution, the supramental consciousness will reign on earth. The supramental consciousness is also called the truth consciousness. To be able to be part of the supramental creation, our psychic being will have to be continuously in front. The mother and Sri Aurobindo devoted their whole life to bring this new consciousness down in the earth atmosphere. On 29th February 1956, it came down. Years later, the mother declared that the supramental consciousness was sufficiently established on earth and that the new world that would be able to express this consciousness was born. She invited everybody who wanted to become part of this new creation to prepare themselves for it in all sincerity. Knowing this, you can understand how important it is for students who have a whole new life in front of them that teachers are able to make them aware of the existence of the world within themselves and that we help them discover and remain in contact with their psychic being. Is this not giving an added meaning and a new urgency for going on an inner quest ourselves? We can only help our students, our children, well, if we ourselves have consciously begun and experienced the search of our psychic center. Should I stop here or continue?
Yeah, I think just finish this paragraph. This one, yeah, this.
Yes. This search and discovery will give true meaning to our lives. It is the task of teachers in integral schools to create an environment that helps students to find the deeper aim of their lives. When we have started ourselves to look and live within, we discover a new dimension in our life that extends itself to our work and makes it more beautiful. Real integral education is to create a classroom environment where concern for the deepest, truest part in the students is consciously integrated in every aspect of the teaching learning process that we facilitate.
So, anything here? I think this again is always a very good reminder, that we are not here for comfort, we're not here for settlement, we're not here for our individual, like it was shared, small doings and happenings. But we are on earth to progress. And this is the reason for taking birth after birth, because the psychic can only make progress here on earth when it takes on a human body. So I remember when the first time we had read that gods don't have psychic being, we were so surprised because we, consider them to be so high up. And yet this evolution, this thing that, one can become their highest self, this possibility of growth, that's why there's so many texts which, especially Buddhism had said it up so loudly, right? That this human birth is a precious birth, and even Vedanta, of course, says it again and again, but not to let this go waste. So, yeah. And I think for most of the questions, of course, depending on where the person is, for anybody who's truthfully seeking something, mother's answer to most questions, coming down to it was realize your psychic and you'll know, right? Get in touch with your psychic and you'll know. And like it was shared, that all the confusions, the restlessness, the dualism that we usually struggle with, that just rests. And when one is in touch with the psychic, and you know how Sri Aurobindo in some of his incidents, when he was asked, why did you do that? He says, he got the adesh that just has to be done, just has to be done. And when he didn't follow the adesh, he was imprisoned. Like, at least that's my understanding. And when he was told later that, you were told to be quiet or rest, but you didn't listen. So now stop and listen. So that's very beautiful to know. I mean, we don't learn, but I don't know, we can be more familiar. And this again is in line with what we were just reading, that that invitation that those of us who can, we must. Yeah, anything on this, or I think we should probably then stop for today. Yes,
Yeah,
Chan.
one last thing.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen people in this line, in this path, my uncle, many people, and I've seen the difference between them and others. And it's very true, the things that are written there. It is not even very true, absolutely true that it is possible to reach that state. And it's the evolution will eventually go there. But while having all these experiences, while uh, have like I've seen things yet while reading it, a very tiny part of me was said, especially that line where it says this about this new world, says that, Acha, is it really true? It's questioning, and that's when I'm able to see that it's testing the faith, and also I'm able to see, okay, so there's like, how these beings kind of bring in reason, the limited reason, to not let me walk that path. And another thing is, I forgot. Never mind. Thanks.
I think from this book only I had written it down. This was really nice. I like to share it. Here, mother says that thoughts cross one's mind, violent, bad, hateful things like that. I mean, not that you said something in that thing, but usually one pays no attention to it. But this is what must be caught. As soon as it manifests, you must catch it like this with a firm grip and then hold it up to the light and say, no, I don't want you. I don't want you. I have nothing to do with this. You're going to get out of here and you won't return. So, I think for everything has a place, right? There's a place when we must ignore. There's a place when we can smile. There's something when we can just, like a child is blabbering, we can be that. And yet there are places where we see something, if repeatedly is coming to us, especially, or something which is has absolutely no place, one can also be very dynamically hold it. And because a lot of times when we are not paying attention, it keeps coming back, right? So there could be, apologies, there could be something which, when we feel that, okay, this is enough, or I've heard it too many times in my head, to catch it and give it the light of the day. Yeah, so just wanted to share that.
So how long is the course for on this psychic education for the teachers at Mirambika?
Ritu, I don't know. I was told that this book is very good, and when I started reading it, I found it to be very miraculously simple. Like if somebody wants to know, do something, the exercises here are very doable, very relatable. So that's the reason I suggested we do that. But there would be an official course, I don't know, but I just know the book, and like with all the sessions, it will take as much time as it will take. So there is no set duration in mind for this. But in Mirambika, I don't know. Yeah.
I found one more thing very powerful while you all were reading was the fact that when it mentions that, what you are inside is what will be outside as well. And I thought of myself if I had to be that. And if I dispel all those layers that we have, of social etiquettes, manners, and then which kind of makes us tell a lot of lies also at times. I realized by itself, if society does that at large, being what they are inside and outside as equal and same, we in that one sweep of movement itself, we lose so many bad things like insecurities, like does the person love me, does the person hate me, um, the manipulations, the corruption, and all of those things just disappear with this one master stroke. And that would probably lay a path for further evolution. And this, for me, like when I read this, I felt like this could be that one step that I could potentially take of being more honest. Of course, completely is like a process, but yes, this is something that we all can aspire to be in due course of time.
Mm. Absolutely. Yeah. Mm. So, should we end the session here, or Ritu, are you saying something, or
No, I just thought about what Deepa said about honesty. So, my dad, sometimes he tells me about his dad. So he was once telling me that my grandfather could stay and be in that meditative state for hours together, like for 3, 4 hours together. And I would find it very fascinating that it's difficult to even sit for me for half an hour and concentrate or be stable. So he told me that my grandfather was not that he was very into the prayers or books or things like that. The only thing which he followed in his entire life was honesty. So no matter what the situation was, even if it would take him to an unpleasant place, he would still be honest. So that's also such a big thing, I mean, just to follow one thing in life, and that is honesty.
yeah. I think to end, we had taken up a prayer which was very beautiful. So maybe we can just read this before we end the session today. So if anybody wants to read this for us, maybe we can begin with this, or any prayer for aspiration, we can begin it with it. Any session. This session we can begin with this prayer or new prayers moving forward.
Lord, we pray to Thee. May we understand better why we are here. May we do better what we have to do here. May we be what we ought to become here, so that Thy will may be fulfilled, so that Thy will may be fulfilled harmoniously. The Mother.
Thank you.